you're tired of bulky sunglasses cases or digging in your bag to find them, this beginner-friendly one clips anywhere, protects your lenses, and takes under an hour to make. It's cute, compact, and crazy useful, especially for summer. Hi, I'm Victoria, and on this channel, I help you sew practical, stylish accessories that are ready for real life and real adventures. I've been clipping this to everything. My water bottle holder, my tiny purse, even my wristlet keychain from the last project tutorial. The two make a perfect pair. I'll link the wristlet tutorial here in case you missed it. Now, here's what you'll need to make it. You'll need fabric for the outer piece, fabric for the lining, and a small strip of fabric for the strap. Now, as far as the size of the piece of fabric that you're going to need, you're only going to need roughly a 10 by 10 inch square. So a fat quarter at 18 by 21 inches works perfectly. And if you have a scrap piece of fabric that's 10 by 10 inches, then that should work just fine. Now, I'm using the same fabric for the lining as I will be for the strap, just like I did in the prototype here, because it matched well, but feel free to mix it up. This is a great spot to add a little extra color or personality. For my case, I debated between turquoise, green, and pink for the lining. This turquoise blends too much. It won't pop enough for the trim here. The green doesn't quite match the stems. As you can see, it's just the stems are a little bit darker. So pink it is. Plus the pink will match these cherries pretty well and add a nice pop of color along the trim, just like with this one. Now, as far as fabric type, I recommend that you go with a thicker fabric to add more stability to the bag. I'm using quilting cotton here. I recommend you use a thicker fabric like quilting cotton or canvas or maybe even denim if you're into upcycling. Just keep in mind that if you use denim, then you're going to have possibly a little bit more difficulty turning the bag right side out when we get to that stage. And you're going to need to use a thicker needle to sew through those layers of fabric. You'll also need some fusible interfacing to give your case structure and help protect your glasses. I'm using Heat and Bond medium weight. I'll link it in the description below. You'll also need coordinating thread, and for the closure, you'll need a snap. I'm using plastic cam snaps because they're easy, secure, and honestly, the fastest way to finish this. If you've got a kit like this, just pick a coordinating color and you're good to go. And if you don't already have cam snaps and you're looking for a good place to start, this kit is an affordable way to get going. It comes with the tool and a nice range of colors so you can match whatever project you're working on. I'll link it below. I highly recommend it if you want something that's easy, versatile, and will come in handy way beyond this case. Now, technically, the snap is optional. You could leave the case open at the top, but if you're planning to clip it to a bag, wristlet, or anything where it might tip upside down, you'll definitely want that closure to keep your sunglasses safe. And if you don't want to use cam snaps or don't have the tools, traditional sew-on snaps will work too. Just keep in mind that you'll need to add them partway through the project to make sure that the stitches are hidden. Now, I designed this case to be as useful as possible without being bulky or overly complicated. That's why it has a rounded bottom. It looks cleaner and it lays flatter, and it cuts down on the extra fabric in the corners that you really don't need. The 2 layers of interfacing make it sturdy, and the lining adds both stability and personality. But what really makes it practical is this little strap. It's what lets you clip this to a bag, a wristlet, or a water bottle holder and actually use it on the go. If you're using your own fabric pieces, here are the general dimensions. The outer piece is about 9 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. The lining is roughly 9 inches wide by 9.5 inches tall. And the strap piece is about 4.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Now, you can cut out those rectangles if you want to, but I really recommend grabbing the free pattern that I made. I'll pop a QR code on screen, and the link is in the description too. The pattern has that curved bottom already drawn for you. And unless you want to break out some geometry tools, just trust me, this is way easier, especially since it looks pretty funny before you actually put it together. It looks more like a W. It includes all 3 pattern pieces, so you can just print it, cut it, and skip the measuring. And if you're a beginner, that's going to make everything way less frustrating. So grab the pattern if you haven't already, and let's get started. Once you've got your pattern printed out and cut, press your fabric to make sure everything lays flat and your cuts are accurate. Then go ahead and cut out the outer fabric, the lining, and the strap piece using the pattern. Again, if you're using the pattern, the rounded edges are already drawn for you. No need to measure or guess. Just trace, cut, and you're good to go. Next, grab your interfacing. You'll want to cut out one piece to match your outer fabric and one piece to match your lining. Just use the same pattern pieces you already used and cut the interfacing to match. It's that easy. These will give your case structure and help protect your sunglasses, so don't skip this step. It really makes a difference. If you've never used interfacing before, don't worry. We are just cutting the same shapes and we'll fuse them to the fabric in the next step. Now that your interfacing is cut out, it's time to fuse it to the fabric. I'm using Heat n Bond's medium weight, so I'll be showing you how to apply this one. If you're using a different interfacing, just make sure to check the instructions on your packaging. They're not all the same. With this one, you'll place the shiny side of the interfacing against the wrong side of your fabric. Go ahead and do this for both the outer fabric and the lining. Line everything up, clip it in place, and grab your iron. You'll want the interfacing side up. Use a light pressing cloth. I'm just using a washcloth as a thin barrier between the interfacing and your iron. Press and hold the iron in place for 5 to 10 seconds at a time. Then lift, move to the next section, and press again. Try to avoid dragging the iron. Once the whole piece is fused, I like to flip it over and give the fabric side a quick press too, just to make sure everything's bonded well. Repeat the same thing for both your outer fabric and your lining. And if you notice any interfacing hanging over the edge when you're finished, just trim it off so everything stays neat and clean. Alright, let's switch over to the strap for a second. If you've sewn along with my last few projects, then you already know this press and fold routine. But I'll walk through it step by step for anyone who's new. So first we're going to fold and press it in half. Lay the strap piece right side down and fold it in half lengthwise. Press to set a center crease, then open it back up. Next, we're going to fold the raw edges toward the crease. Fold each long edge in to meet that center line and press again. Now, be careful here. The strip is tiny, so the heat lingers. It's really easy to burn them here or get your fingers in the way or touch the fabric while it's still really hot. If you have heat-resistant sewing gloves, now's the time to use them. To finish, fold the strip in half once more to close the strip along that original crease, creating a clean 1/2 inch wide strap. Give it a firm final press. Go ahead and clip it with some wonder clips and set the strap aside. That'll give those folds a chance to really settle. And then, while the iron's still hot, let's prep the top edges of the outer piece of fabric and the lining. First, take your outer fabric and fold the top edge down 1/4 inch toward the wrong side. That's the inside of the case. Give it a good press and clip it or pin it in place. Next, grab your lining. You'll fold the top edge down 1/2 inch toward the wrong side, press it, and then fold it down another 1/2 inch and press again, so it's basically a double fold. Pin or clip that in place too. Then let's set these pieces aside for now. Now let's turn our attention back to the strap. We're going to fold the raw ends in so they get enclosed inside the strap itself. It looks a little complicated, but I promise it's not. I'll walk you through the basic steps here, but if you want a closer look, I go over it in more detail in my classic bookmark tutorial. I'll link that up here. That video and the written pattern instructions for this project may provide more clarity. So on to the steps. Open the strip up. We're basically unfolding it. Fold the short end in about 1/4 inch. Step 2, reopen/unfold the right side/1/2 of the strip, leaving the left side and the short end folded. You may need to reinforce that 1/4 inch end crease. Step 3, begin forming the pocket. Take the folded edge on the left and fold it inward over the center crease again, enclosing the short end inside. You should be left with one raw edge. Step 4, take the remaining open/raw edge and tuck it into the pocket you just made. Now, note here, the fabric won't really slide in, so don't try to shove it. Instead, line up the folded edge first, right where it needs to sit, then hold it in place with one hand and use your fingers to smooth the rest of the fabric into the fold, like you're rolling out a ribbon or flattening a rug. Once the fabric is tucked in, pin it in place. And I actually like to use a pin here instead of wonder clips because it's hard to get the stitches started. I can get the pin in under the presser foot to hold it in place while I start stitching. Sometimes I pin it with a clip first just to set it aside, but once I put it under the machine, I'm going to want an actual pin. Now, repeat the same process at the other end of the strip. Now we're headed to the machine to sew the strap closed. Start by stitching along the open edge, right along the very edge of the open side. This part can be a little bit tricky to get started since the strap is small but bulky. If your machine has trouble grabbing it, try gently lifting the presser foot and nudging it forward, or tug the thread tails from the back to help guide it through. You might also need to turn the hand wheel manually for those first few stitches. Just take your time, be patient here. And once that side is sewn, turn the strap around and sew along the opposite edge as well. This helps hold the fold flat and gives it a nice, even finish on both sides. Now, let's get back to the main pieces, the outer fabric and the lining. Lay both pieces flat and line them up with the wrong sides together. I know that might feel backwards, but in this case, the pretty sides of the fabric should be facing outward. Pin or clip the layers together along the bottom and both sides, leaving the top open. Flip it over and double check for any puckers or bunching so everything lays nice and flat. Next, unclip the top edges. Remember those folds we pressed earlier? You're going to fold the top edge of the lining over the top edge of the outer fabric and pin it in place. That lining fold should fully cover the raw edge of the outer fabric underneath. Now, if you're planning to use regular sew-on snaps instead of plastic cam snaps, this is the point where you'll need to add them before we sew that top edge closed. Although honestly, once you see how easy the cam snaps are, you're probably going to want them. It's way easier.
Seriously, it's way easier.
Anyway, to sew on the snaps, fold the case in half like we will in the later steps, and then fold it again and kind of press it with your fingers to find the center crease. Mark where you want your snap to go. Roughly a ½ inch below the top fold is a good guide, but it doesn't need to be exact. Just leave enough room for the snap to sit comfortably. Hand sew both snap pieces in place, one on each side of the lining, so that when the case is folded, they meet. Then put the lining and outer fabric back together. Fold the top edge over again and pin it in place. Now, if you want more instruction about marking the location of the snap, just skip ahead to the end where I demonstrate that for the cam snaps, sew on your snaps, and then come back here for the rest of the instructions. Okay, now once that's all ready, we're going to top stitch along the bottom edge of the folded over lining. This secures the top of the case and gives it that pop of color at the opening. This is an area where you'll want to be precise, so take your time here and lower your sewing speed if you have that option. Now fold the case in half with the right sides of the outer fabric together. Keep your clips in place as you fold. This helps everything stay lined up and smooth. As you fold, just take a moment to flatten it out and adjust things so the layers sit nicely together, like the outer fabric and lining are already one piece. You'll want all the edges lined up cleanly without any puckering or bunching between the layers. Once everything's lined up, clip or pin the sides and the bottom to hold it in place. Now it's time to add the strap. Unclip the top edge just enough to slide it in. Fold the strap in half with the ends meeting and tuck it inside the case. The raw edges of the strap should line up with the side edge of the case, and the folded part should be facing inward. You shouldn't see it anymore once it's placed. Position the strap just under the folded edge of the lining, right below that pop of color at the top. Clip it in place. Now it's time to close the case. Close the case. Sounds like we're closing a cold case or something, or like we just solved a mystery. That's kind of funny. Anyway, using an overedge stitch, sew around the bottom and up the side, right over that folded lining band at the top. I like to start on the folded bottom edge and work my way up to the strap. Now let's do a quick gear check before you actually start sewing, because this part's going to be a little bit tricky. First of all, I would strongly recommend that you use a heavy-duty needle. I'd recommend the sizing that's like either 110/18 or 120/20. I'm just gonna use one that Singer labels as heavy duty. Also, an overedge stitch and an overcasting presser foot are ideal here. But if you don't have that as an option, a tight zigzag stitch works too. Just lower the stitch length and let the outer edge swing hit or slightly clear the edge of the fabric. Now, when you reach the strap, slow way down. It's a stack of folds, 2 straps, 4 fabric layers, and 2 layers of interfacing, so even strong machines can stall. If the feed dogs aren't grabbing, use the hand wheel for the first few stitches or over the whole strap. Gently tug on the case from behind to help ease it through. Just make sure it's really gentle. Never force the pedal. Broken needles are not fun. Now, if you're using a zigzag stitch, go really slow here so you can watch the outer swing land right on the edge or just over the edge. And once you've finished sewing around the whole case, reinforce the strap. Switch to a straight stitch and run a couple of passes over the strap area to lock it down. Those sunglasses will tug on it a lot. Now let's flip the case right side out. Because the case is narrow, it takes a little bit of working, but you'll get there. Just be patient. I'm using a point turner tool to help poke out the bottom corners and smooth the side seams. If you don't have one, just find some sort of pointed tool that can help smooth the folds without poking through the fabric. Once everything's flipped, give the case a good press. Focus on the seams so it lays crisp and flat. All right, before we jump into the final steps, if this tutorial's been helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more practical sewing projects just like this. I'll be switching things up a bit next week, but I've got more fun tutorials coming right after that. And if you're looking for more free patterns and tools, check out my website. I've linked the patterns page in the description below. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is top stitch around all 3 sides of the case, leaving the opening at the top untouched. Take it slow over the 2 thick spots, the strap area and the very top edge where the lining folds over. If your machine struggles, use the hand wheel over the challenging parts. Don't force the needle.
Really?
Aim to stay close to the edge for a neat finish since the stitch is fully visible on the outside. As you approach the rounded bottom corners, pivot in tiny steps. Put the needle down, the presser foot up, and turn the fabric a degree or 2. Stitch once and then repeat. Small pivots give you a smooth curve. And then just sew very slowly along the curve, slightly turning your fabric as you feed it through the machine. Definitely take it slow here. Alright, now let's add the snaps. The easiest way to find the center is to fold the case in half lengthwise and press it gently with your fingers to make a temporary crease. No need for an iron here. Then use a fabric pin to mark a point about a ½ inch down from the bottom of the lining band, right at that center point. You'll need to do this on both sides of the case so we can install both parts of the snap. Next, grab an owl or an owl, not sure, from your snap kit. Most kits include one, like the one I've linked below. Poke a hole through both fabric layers at the mark. The hole just needs to be big enough for the cap of the snap to poke through. Place the cap through the hole from the outside, then line up the socket piece on the inside. Use the snap pliers to press the two together. Use firm pressure, but not so much that you crush the pieces. Then repeat the process on the other side of the case, but this time with the cap and the stud. Once both sides are installed, go ahead and close the snap to check that it lines up and holds securely. And that's it! You did it! Congrats! Now you've got a sunglasses case that you can clip to anything and take anywhere. Now, if you want more beginner-friendly sewing projects like this, check out the playlist right here, or digging in your bag to find them. This beginner, stylish accessories that are... All right, let's strip